Hello there, my name is Avichal Singh and I am a co-founder at Nodding Heads Games along with Ian Maud and Shruti Ghosh. We're a video game development company based out of Pune, India. Although we're a small team, we're a very passionate team which came together for our first title, Raji, an ancient epic, with the mandate to put India on the game dev map. Raji launched last year on PC, Xbox, PS4 and Nintendo Switch and has been since known as India's first successful premium title. Today I will be talking about our development journey, our inspirations, the timeline of the game's development, our struggles, our successes and the path ahead of us. Before we dive in, here's the launch trailer of Raji, an ancient epic.
He is a twisted creature.
A balance must be restored.
Be ready, Raji. Sword, shield, and heart.
Where did it all start? Why did we decide to make Raji? How did the team come together? There's a lot of those questions. The story of Raji goes back as far as 2013. I was on a vacation trip to Jaisalmer, Rajasthan, and I came across a palace from the early 18th century called Patwo Ki Haveli. What was in front of me was gorgeous, intricate sandstone architecture, reminiscent of the medieval era gone by. I was staying at the majestic and gigantic Jaisalmer fort and later spent the night in the Thar desert with my friends. The moment that I was in the front of Patwo Ki Haveli, I asked myself, why is this not a video game? I came back from this trip to my design college as a student who was about to graduate. This is where I met Shruti and Ian, who had recently joined as art lecturers. I had connected to Shruti over Bastion by Supergiant Games and our collective passion for making games. And through Shruti, I met Ian and later tried my best to convince them both to work on my Counter-Strike map, which did not work out, but we did connect and talk about the possibility of making a game set in ancient India, maybe in the future someday. Shruti had the background of fine arts and had already been in the industry for 6 years, and Ian had a long history of working in companies like Ubisoft, Rockstar, The Chinese Room, and many more. For the next 2 years, life took over and we all took our own paths. I joined Zynga as a game design intern, Shruti joined EA as an art manager, and Ian decided to continue teaching game art at the design college. What you're seeing on your screen are the very first Raji sketches made by Shruti. It's mid-2016 and Shruti, myself and Ian have laid the very first foundation stones of Nodding Heads Games. These sketches were approved by a close group of friends and gave us the confidence of moving forward with our plan of action. This, along with the first pitch of Raji, was an invitation to Paras Chaudhary, Jalay Bhatti, Linus Zealous and Himanshu Thakur, our early team of 7 members. We all started working together on a teaser. Here are some of the very early storyboards made by Ian. And following this is a block out of our teaser. Shortly after, we realized that our teaser was a little too ambitious during our blockout. We had to take some creative shortcuts to get this done in time. I'll now let the teaser play itself out. The teaser got some press coverage and we saw positive responses all over social media. This boosted our morale and we knew we were on the right track. Soon after the teaser, we started working on the playable demo and our Kickstarter campaign, which was launched in 9 months. Let's watch the trailer for the Kickstarter. We got coverage from PC Gamer, support from industry leaders like Rami Ismail and Mike Bichel. But this wasn't enough. We did not have enough momentum and neither the best launch timing for the Kickstarter. The Kickstarter campaign fell short, and this was mainly due to the fact that we had no marketing campaign or the funds for it, and we were also exhausted from the crunch we did to complete our demo. We were out of savings and in a lot of trouble. Our morale was extremely low and our confidence was shattered. The future of the studio looked grim, but we didn't come so far to give up who we are. We saw traction from publishers during our Kickstarter campaign and we decided to chase them and a dozen of others. To keep ourselves from the brink of bankruptcy, our co-founder Shruti decided to sell her apartment back in Kolkata. This allowed us a few more months to survive. The show must go on. Few months past our Kickstarter, we finally received the Unreal Dev Grant, for which we had applied on our Kickstarter launch. This was right at the nick of time, when the team was almost going to end up bankrupt. The grant gave us a few extra months to find publishers, and yes, it finally worked out. We were able to enter a publishing deal with Super.com, and the future of Raji was now secured. We were set to launch on Nintendo Switch, PC, Xbox, and PS4. The game was now evolving naturally into something bigger. We had parkour mechanics added to the level. The game had new levels, new gameplay mechanics, and game systems. Our VFX was going through an overhaul. We added elementals to the game, and it was all coming together. We also added 2D cinematics, which were inspired by the Wayang puppet show from Bali. These cinematics allowed us to convey a story with a much bigger purpose. The decision was taken after we realized that 3D cinematics would take much longer for us to polish, and we wouldn't be able to do justice to them. The 2D cinematics were very well received by our audience. We added boss fights, new characters, new weapons, and all of this was shared through our social media channels. We were now building momentum towards the launch. The game was winning awards and was being appreciated at gaming events. ID at Xbox was taking Raji's demo to every single event they could. We won 3 awards at DevPlay 2019. Now the game was coming near launch. We were working very hard towards it, and came an opportunity we couldn't miss, the Nintendo indie game world. Nintendo loved Raji and was very interested in it. They asked us if we wanted to participate in the Nintendo indie game world, and this was a lifetime of an opportunity for us. We were now under a lockdown due to COVID-19, and this did make things a little more challenging for us, since our entire team was now working from home. We finally launched on the Switch on August 18th, 2020, and it was a very emotional day for our team. This was followed by a launch on the PC, Xbox, and the PS4 on October 15th, and finally we could be relieved. Raji was received very positively by the press, and this was reflected throughout our coverage on a launch. Raji also saw a very positive response from the Indian gaming community. Here's a glimpse of the lovely things gaming media had to say about Raji. Raji was also nominated for several awards, and this included the prestigious Game Awards show. We'll now cover points about what went wrong, what went right, and what did we learn over all these years. What went right? Well, of course, we made it. Overcoming countless hurdles, the fact that Raji made it to release was much of a celebration itself. Our relentless will to chase a passion and being able to find a path from many grim situations is something we are proud of. Very positive reception. For our indie studio to release a first game with such a positive response from media and players This was a big plus for us as a team. Successful porting to Xbox, PS4, and Switch. Porting to consoles is seen as a big challenge by many studios. We knew this from the day one and had taken care of dealing with it with a smart pipeline and were successfully able to port the game. International and national coverage. Raji did make waves in the media during its launch and prior to its launch, and that proved that Raji was newsworthy and it directly helped the launch. Nintendo Indie Game World. The event helped Raji to make a spot among the Nintendo audience, and this was a big plus for our title. Our social media notifications exploded during this, and the reception from Switch audience was great. What went wrong? Too much time lost to find a publisher. This consumed a lot of time away from the three co-founders, and this time ideally could have been used toward our own crafts. However, this was a learning process for all of us, and we did succeed to find a publisher. Very little time for pre-production. Post the signing of our agreement, we only got a couple months for pre-production, and it did affect our production, and we had to take care of this in the future. The Switch launch required a couple of performance patches. While we made it for a Switch launch on time, met the deadline, there were a few areas in our game which took a hit in terms of performance. This had to be patched later, and ideally we would have wanted to avoid this. What we learned: do not attempt to launch a Kickstarter right after you've been crunching. This means you will not have any energy to put into the campaign, you can't fix what's going wrong, and you will feel helpless about the situation. Rather take a break, figure out another day for the release if you can. Marketing needs budget and a lot of research and development. This is another learning from our Kickstarter campaign. We relied solely on the traffic from Kickstarter and social media, but this wasn't enough for us. Securing a publisher can be very challenging. This is very true, especially for a studio making its first title. And it can take up to good 8 to 10 months from a time publisher shows interest to the time you actually sign something. Porting is possible through a smart pipeline. As I mentioned earlier, this was a plus point for the project, and this has definitely boosted our confidence regarding porting. Future projects should avoid crunch. Crunch towards the milestone and especially towards the launch could not be avoided for Raji. However, we have this as a high priority goal for ourselves for the next project. No compromises on the next one. While we are satisfied with what we've achieved with Raji, the truth is that Raji was supposed to be a 24-month project in production. This was reduced to 18 months to make it appealing for the publishers, but also took a toll on the team. Catching up with the rest of the planet. We couldn't do anything but work for the past couple of years, and this is what a burnout feels like. We're now catching up with everything that's happened outside Notting Head's games. Taking one step at a time. Similar to the last point, yes, we are now taking a few steps back, trying to learn from our experiences and mistakes and make sure we're not going to repeat them in the future.
This brings us to the end of the presentation. Hope you all had a good time, and thanking Gamescom for the opportunity. We'd like to take this moment to thank our families and our fans for their support. Thank you and have a good day.